Hi everybody, Delman Mehta here, and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. Uh, so I've been doing this almost 2 years now, and I finally decided, hey, you know what? Why don't I try some editing on these videos? So let's add a little bit of that to spice things up. So let's dive in. Um, and again, for those of you that don't know, I've read a shit ton of fan fiction, had a favorites list on fanfiction.net. That favorite list got really, really bloated, and I decided to start curating that list by rereading everything, seeing if they're still good or not. Let's dive in. We're in June 2011 with this first story, For His Own Sake by Karndragon. This is a Love Hina fanfic, which is a pretty simple premise. Like, Keitaro basically just gets fed up one day of taking all the beatings and crap and leaves the inn. It's a pretty simple premise that leads to a lot of craziness because the author takes the interesting decision to set the fanfic in basically the real world, where as opposed to the an anime universe where Naru and Sue's actions can be done without consequence, whereas in the real world there's a lot of problematic shit that they get away with. you know this can be considered a bash fic in some sense, because it really does hit a lot of the characters and like constantly brings them down and calls them out. But I don't really think it's undeserved, because again, like, it's not bashing for just hating them as a character and like just undeserved on like just on. So it's just the characters act like they normally do, but the world decides that it's not going to accept that bullshit, and some of those actions are illegal. um, the story itself is very much small rock tumbling down a hill and creating like an avalanche, because it's just because he leaves, suddenly the eyes of other people start coming, and more normal people start coming onto the residents of the inn, and their actions start having consequences. And basically nobody aside from like Kitsune really changes their behavior, and so they just keep adding more and more problems for themselves. I do like this because, as I've stated before, the whole like playful abuse notion and all that stuff that goes on in Love Hina is something I really despise, and I just like seeing the idea of awful people getting what's coming to them. Uh, if you can, I think it's pretty decent. But there are problems with the story that I will get into after this. But overall, I think it's a decent story that, if you can get over the problems I'm about to mention, you can pretty much have some fun with this. But problems are plenty. Like, do you like flashbacks? Because you are going to see a lot of them in this fic. Like, not only are there like multiple extended flashbacks, there's multiple flashbacks in pretty much every chapter. Like, and they aren't even flashbacks to events before the story started. Like, there'll be flashbacks to events that happened in the story, and also, for some reason, the author likes to just cut scenes in the middle and then move forward to the next scene, and then cut flashback to the rest of the conversation. And that just happens a lot and a lot. And like I said, there's many scenes where they'll be like, he will copy and paste entire previous conversations to just recap that, instead of thinking back, instead of just simply saying like, oh, Naru thought back to the fight from yesterday. They'll just recap those 5 paragraphs of the fight and just show it again. Like, not only does that happen like multiple times, but that one scene this one scene that I'm mentioning got like 5 repeats on its own. You know, uh, another problem is that the inciting incident doesn't really seem kind of justified, which is weird because it's like it's just it happens out of nowhere. But like it aside from like 1 or 2 lines, it really does feel like out of place that he just decides to walk out. Um, then there's other problems with motivation. Like Kitsune has a problem with behavior where it's like it doesn't really feel natural. Like as soon as shit starts happening, even like in the beginning, Kitsune just like, okay, I'm a good person now. I'm gonna be contrite and try and help this out, and like that really doesn't feel like her at all. And it just feels that, oh, she just the author liked her, so let's just make her the good person and get her away from any of the consequences, so she doesn't have to face them. I don't saying it like that makes me feel like it's like I'm advocating for bashing her, but it's really not that. It's just it it doesn't feel natural when you compare. Everyone else seems normal in their normal portrayals, and she's just getting away scot-free because the author didn't want to have her deal with any consequences, and she goes through like all the rehabilitation without any reason or just effort. Even Shinobu gets more shit thrown at her than Kitsune does, which I feel is really not like okay. Kind of shows where there's a problem. Uh, the other big complaint that I have is that basically everyone in the cast is a shitty person. Like either they're despicable, like horrible people who in their actions and behavior, or they're naive to the point of stupidity. Like even Keitaro is not spared with being hit with the stupid stick, and while it doesn't ruin the story from a narrative perspective, it does make it so that these people are not people I want to hang around with. I don't want to see their stories because I don't like these people. I don't give a shit about them. And as it goes on, I could start, and every time like I would start wanting to root for the hero, a new dose of stupidity from his past, from one of the many flashbacks, would come up, and I would just start hating everybody again, and it just tars the entire cast of characters because everybody has some fucked up situation that comes up from their history. I think the author wanted to show that Keitaro and a few of the other girls are good people because they were willing to work to move past it, but it still made me not like these people or care about these people as characters, and I could find better people that I wanted to spend my time with. you know Overall, I think the story is it's okay, it's decent enough, it's pretty serviceable for people who want to see Naru and some of the other girls get their just desserts for their horrible actions. But I really did not like the characters, and their it just really got to be a slog to go through, and I didn't enjoy the story that much. Give it a look if you want, like I said, to see a couple of the girls from the inn get reality thrown in their face, but it's not gonna stay on my list. Right. Next up, we have Elsewhere, but Not Elsewhen by the Mad Mad Reviewer. And this is a Harry Potter fic where the inciting incident is pretty sure it takes place during the end of the fourth year, I believe, or fifth year. I can't remember. It's been a while since I read it. But here, like Voldemort hears the prophecy, and it is the end of fifth year. Voldemort hears the prophecy and decides to send Harry to another dimension so they can both be immortal, because that's how he decides to interpret it. The story is pretty interesting. Harry gets into another universe. There's obviously minor changes between the two, but the main relationship uh, character relationship is actually between Harry and his the original Voldemort, his Voldemort from his universe. Because even though he's sent to a different dimension, uh, the Horcrux in Harry's head acts as a conduit so they can still talk and communicate with each other. And basically, they grow into more of a cordial rival friendship relationship instead of the huge protagonist antagonist stuff that was going on. And because of that link, we also get to see what's still going. We get bits and pieces of what's going on in Harry's original universe, and as well as this new place that he's been sent to. Uh, and the other butterflies that also exist, the changes between two are lead to interesting dynamics happening with Harry's relationships with the new characters that he deals with. And I just found that to be the core of the story. The tone is pretty down to earth, so as it doesn't turn Harry into like a god or go super dark. It's pretty much the same as canon, just with a few tweaks, and that's pretty good because it lets the character moments of shine and make it more of a drama like piece. It's especially great because there wasn't really anything going on at the start of the Harry's sixth year, so this the character bits and the delves into the past make it have at least more interesting stuff going on. Uh, I won't say it's fun necessarily because it does delve into psychological abuse and trauma, but I did find it very captivating and enjoyable to read, even though it's unfinished. So I think you should really check this out if you like Harry Potter, and it is going to stay on my list. All right. The next story I have for you is called Taichou by This Page Has Been Abandoned 93. And this is a Naruto story that technically it's in the crossover category with Captain America, but it's not quite the same. But basically, Naruto is Captain Konoha. Also, he's the younger brother of the fourth Hokage, who ended up frozen in ice as he tried to save Princess Yuki from the Land of Ice when she was a child after he was experimented on by Orochimaru. So that sentence should feel weird. And it's overstuffed. It's certain things feel out of place, and that describes this entire fic. It tries to take many elements from the 2011 Captain America movie and jam it into the Naruto world, while also inserting Naruto into basically every character's backstory in some way. Like he handpicked Ibiki to be the head of the torture investigation services. Anko is his little sister who doesn't remember him because of the curse seal, but he then removes it immediately as soon as he gets back to Konoha. So what was the point of that little detail? He trained Kakashi, Guy, and Neji's dad. He's the father of Kiba. It's the whole thing of like trying to make the characters feel connected, and in turn making the world become super small because only the handful of people matter. It just feels like too much, and it doesn't. None of those things really move the story forward in any way, and we just get a few hints of things like a new Hydra and a Hulk style monster roaming around before the author just decided to stop updating. And like I said, the story itself didn't seem to get very far. It's not a huge mess, but it is messy, and it's nothing particularly interesting or super amazing to write home about. You can skip this without worry, and it's gonna fall off my list. Right. Next one is Hijacking the Kangaroo Court by Sprinter 1988. And this is back to the Harry Potter well, which takes place during Order of the Phoenix, specifically Harry's trial for underage magic. And basically, it's just he decides to speak out during the trial, stand up for himself, and unveils his memories to the Wizengamot. And this leads to a series of events that basically neatly wraps up all of the problems of the wizarding world. So I don't know why it's labeled angst, as it's not. It's really just a short rant about Harry, like saying like, "Hey, you guys declare me as an adult, so I should be treated as one, and I should be able to do shit as an adult." And then showing his memories, and then everybody reacting to them and activating some actions that taken place. Um, there's no real sadness or like super drama here, and because there's a lot happening in a short amount of words, and that we are basically treated to a slideshow of summarized events that lack any emotional weight. Uh, in the end, this is essentially two scenes followed by a quick epilogue and where are they now sequence. So if you just want a quick fix story that ties up everything and solves all the world's problems in a short 10k words, you'll be happy with this. But there's nothing really substantial or super satisfying here for me, so I'm gonna have to take this off my list. Next, we got three more stories here. So next is The Adventures of Mikuru Asahina, Kyon's version, by Morbius Green. And this is a Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya fic that takes place during the filming of the movie that they had to shoot for the Culture Club, I believe, or the Cultural Festival. And this basically, there's an event that happens during that festival where Haruhi tries to get Mikuru drunk for a scene, and Kyon decides he's not going to stand for that. He pushes it away and then leaves the club. And then after he leaves the club, he decides to write a more serious take of the movie's plot in his frustration. This is a fic that never really got out of the ideation phase. There's 4 chapters, but again, it's really just a proof of concept. And we get a decent amount of prologue of both the story and a little bit of how everybody else is taking Kyon's actions after leaving the club. The concept is good, and even if it had just been the story of Kyon's, like the story Kyon was writing, instead of all the stuff that's actually happening, I think that would have been a great fic by itself. And if it had continued, I would have really enjoyed it. But what is here is, like I said, just like basically the nugget of an idea that's not really that satisfying, because it leaves too much open and leaves you wanting more, but it's not even enough to even give you a little bit of satisfaction. So it's not going to stay on my list. Moving on, now we have World of Halkigenia by Dark Nexus. And this is a familiar Zero fic. Second verse, same as the first. Just like the last one, this is a fic that never got out of, that only got to the idea out, and this has it only even less than the last fic did, with just like basically it's not even a prologue for a story. This would be more just a prompt for other writers to pick up and then expand into their own story. Just an idea that when Saito gets summoned by Louise, he was just about to play a VR game and he gets summoned, so he thinks he's stuck he thinks he's just in the VR game. We don't even get to see if he actually has like level powers or stuff like that, or if he has if he finds out the world is real, or if he has gamer powers or stuff. None of that is there. It's just the idea that he was just wearing a headset when he got summoned. So that's the thing. Nothing here. It's gonna fall off my list. Okay, and the last story for this video is Wood and Cardboard. Sorry, I'm gonna say that again because I kind of stumbled over it. Wood and Cardboard by Garfield Odie. There we go. That's his name. And this is a Calvin and Hobbes crossover with Doctor Who. Super short story where Calvin stumbles across the Doctor during one of his wagon rides and helps him find his lost ship. It's basically just a little bit of fluff that has really great chemistry between Calvin, Hobbes, and the Doctor, and it really makes me wish that I got to see some more adventures with the three. But I really like this. I honestly found it to be pretty sweet. Um, and if you're a fan of Calvin and his crazy ways, you'll really enjoy this story. And it's gonna stay on my list. So there we have it. There's a whole bunch more stories that I've just read. So far, I've read 574 stories, and 285 of them have still been on my list. So it's around half ish still, and I still got another about 700 more to go, so it's still going to be going for quite a while. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to read any of these stories for yourselves, links are in the description, as well as links to my fanfiction.net profile, or a forum where I also post all these, as well as a playlist for the whole, so you can see all the videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll try, and I might be a bit slower on the updates now because I've started streaming regularly again, so I got other things taking up my time, so I can't read as fast. And so I might be having to put these out a little more spaced out, but I'm still going to try and put them out as close to once a week as I can. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked, please leave a like, leave a comment if you think I'm an idiot or something, subscribe if you want to be notified when these videos come out. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.